The Evolution Security Podcast.
Let's talk about an awesome training opportunity. We are super pumped to be hosting John Murphy of FPF Training for his Street Encounters, Skills, and Tactics class, the 5th and 6th of November 2022, just outside Fort Bragg, North Carolina. This class will teach life-saving material to include Stop the Bleed Medical, Pre-Encounter Management, Pre-Assault, Proper Pepper Spray Use and Deployment, Essential Shooting Skills, Scenario-Based Decision-Making, Post-Fight, and more. For tickets, go to our show notes and find the class link, or go to John's website, fpftraining.com, and look for the class in his course calendar. Also, listen to John on our podcast, episode 66, to learn more about him and tap into his vast knowledge. Come join us for our EvoSec defensive pistol class just outside of Fort Bragg, North Carolina on June 11th, 2022. This is an 8-hour Level 1 pistol course focusing on a fundamental defensive pistol platform from the holster, moving into dynamic shooting principles from concealment. Even though marksmanship is covered, it is a class that focuses on marksmanship and gun handling skills from a fighting perspective. You will leave this class having a solid shooting platform from extreme close distance out to typical fighting range. Most importantly, you'll leave understanding how to practice and become more capable of defending yourself and or a loved one in the event of a violent encounter. For tickets and more information, go to the Eventbrite link in the show notes or go to our website at evosec.org and find it on our upcoming events. Come train with us.
Hey, bro, what's up?
Rock and roll.
Dude, Eric, do you... by the way, everybody, this is the Evolution Security Podcast. It's Eric and Aaron, the Tactical Twins, and we're just kind of hanging out here and letting you all hang out with us. Just going to have a real cool, laid-back hangout session here. But I'm sitting here jamming on my guitar a little bit. Eric, do you remember? It was late, like early '90s. For a while there, Ted Nugent did a talk show.
Yes, I do.
And he would sit there and he would be talking for a while, and then all of a sudden, man, that's a beautiful riff. And
Yes.
Man, that's a beautiful amp. But I just remember that was a funny show, and he'd break out into Great White Buffalo. That's a beautiful riff.
Yeah, I do. Man, I remember it like it was yesterday, and then even thought about it until you mentioned it. Yeah, Ted Nugent, he's out there in many aspects, but he is a patriot. Man, he loves this country, and that dude can rock still.
Oh, yeah, and he can really articulate things quite well. He's obviously a pretty smart dude. I know, I'm sure people are all over the map about him, but hey, he's a supporter of the Second Amendment, so any way that goes, man, he's cool by me.
Well, it reminds me many years ago, I think most of the audience members know I'm a voracious reader, and I read a book from Ted Nugent called, I think it was called God, Guns, and Rock and Roll. And it was actually a pretty good book. And, talked a lot about his hunting days. And, listen, I know he still hunts. That was a little bit of a flub up there on my part. But yeah, it was a good book.
Cool. Well, last time I heard him, I think I was driving through Colorado. Yeah, he's a hoot for sure. But yeah, I thought that'd be funny to goof around with some guitar here and welcome our listeners. And by the way, Eric, something we don't implore our audience to do much anymore is to go on whatever platform they listen to us on. I believe iTunes is really the only place you can write reviews. But I did notice on that website, Talk Notes, you can listen there and you can write comments on that too. But man, it would be really nice, all you listeners out there, to stop by iTunes and give us a rating and a review. It's been a while since we've had any there, and it kind of amazes me, Eric, how many listeners we have and the low amount of reviews and ratings we've got. So we need to step that up.
Well, not at all complaining. It is an interesting thought process. Most of our reviews were 50% of listenership ago. So yeah, if you folks out there get something out of this show, again, for us to spread the word of freedom, Second Amendment, liberties, in our opinion, I think we're correct in this. Some of the most important information for keeping yourself safe. Go ahead and number one, go out there and share with loved ones and friends. And certainly when you do reviews on iTunes, especially, it bubbles up our listenership. There's no question. You look at the stats on Libsyn, who we host with, and 90%. It's not 90% now. Spotify is pretty big too, but I would say more like 75% of downloads are off of Apple. So, yeah, it really helps us, folks. We're not trying to beg or anything like that, but we enjoy getting our information out, and if you guys can help us with that, please do so.
Yeah, and I implore you too, while you're doing that, stop by your other favorite podcasts and give them a rating and a review. So those of us that do these podcasts, we do it because we love it. And, the other hosts out there, they're doing the same thing, and it really helps them. If you're getting something out of somebody's show, help them out and give them a rating and a review.
Especially when in this day and age, which we're going to kind of segue into this subject, is that shows like ours are throttled.
Yep.
They're absolutely throttled, and it just helps when folks go out there and review and share it. So,
yeah. Yeah, we'll go into that. I wanted to ask you a question, Eric. So I was sitting here dry firing earlier, and my cat Judah was in here. Have I ever told you he doesn't like me to dry fire?
You haven't said that, but from a cat's demeanor, I would imagine. And actually, I sit there and say that. But my beloved dog Brody, my pug buddy, he doesn't like it either.
Well, man, I was just sitting here practicing loading my mag, right? And he just starts meow, meow, meow. He does it every single time I dry fire in the room with me. It's funny. He doesn't like it. I wonder if anybody's ever had to deal with that too. I don't know if there's high frequencies in the springs or what. Just what it is. He doesn't really complain about anything else, but my dry fire.
Well, Aaron, I think that it would be a good time to mention some good news for Liberty. I think it's good news for Liberty, and that's the acquisition of Twitter by Elon Musk. What's your thoughts on that, man?
Man, I think it's It's cool. Now I am cautiously optimistic about it, right? And I think anyone that really analyzes these things and really thinks it through, there's no panacea that's going to occur. Let's just hope that it changes something. But my thoughts are this: it is real hilarious the fact that the left is flipping out about this. And it shows you that they're doing exactly what we know they're doing and what they have the power to do, which is control content.
Yep.
So that they don't want anybody else to either remove their control or push other views that are opposed to theirs, because they've frankly had the run of what is essentially the internet. I say this often. Social media is the THE internet, okay? What I mean by that, right, is most people in this country, at least, let's just speak about the U.S., but they get their information, basically all of it, from social media. So it's the internet, right? So if there's something you want to look up or it's a site you go to specifically, you're going there. But everybody hangs out on social media and gets their news, etc. So they know they've had a run of it and have controlled everything, but maybe they're going to lose some of that. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, and what I find very telling and kind of doubling down on what you're saying is that they are melting down. Mm-hmm. And one good example, and this is just what I was hearing on some news reports this morning, is that I guess she's the lead lawyer for Twitter, had a staff meeting, and she was essentially saying that, hey, everything's going to be all right, but she bursted out crying.
Oh, gosh.
So if somebody's that emotional about this type of change, it's very, very much interesting that it has that effect on corporate leadership. And also Project Veritas, God bless them, mm-hmm. they revealed, and I have to look at the full video, but they revealed all kinds of meeting minutes and or audio of all the executives and previous board members discussing the effect and having a Q&A on, okay, how is this going to affect the company? And I've got her name written here because I don't have it to memory. Where in the heck did it go? Her name is Leslie Berland. She's the Twitter CMO. And what's a CMO, Aaron?
Whoa, that's a new... I've never seen that kind of... Chief Moderator Officer?
Yeah, there you go. Chief Moderator Officer. So why would they need a Chief Moderator? I mean, we're talking an executive position in a company. Chief Moderator, which essentially she was the Chief Censor Officer. Mm-hmm. And go figure, she's a leftist, and she's all against Elon Musk, who we don't even really know his political views. I've heard he leans libertarian. I heard this, that, and the other.
Smokes weed on Joe Rogan and stuff.
Yeah. But bottom line, the main reason that he wanted to purchase Twitter was to bring it back to a free speech platform. So now the left has their call to arms. We got to defeat this. I mean, there was all kinds of board members trying to fight this through all kinds of what's
poison
the word?
Pills.
Yeah,
poison pills in the deal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So all it tells us is that the leftists at Twitter and the media. I mean, man, you listen to MSNBC and all these leftists. I'm not going to call them journalists. They're not journalists. They're just leftist hacks that
They're government stenographers.
Yeah, government stenographers. Very, very good word, buddy. Or description, I should say. I mean, they're flipping out, and I sit and think about it. There could only be one reason for that, and that's because they are afraid that there will now be conservatives able on Twitter to voice their opinion. So they know that their arguments or their pontifications cannot stand against logic and reason, and therefore the only way that they can then keep those conservative ideals from coming out is to censor it. And so it's very telling, wouldn't you say, Aaron, that they're so vastly against free speech?
Oh, that's what it comes down to. And Eric, I don't know if you want to go over some of this stuff that you've laid out, or if you want me to go into this article that I've been wanting to quote from. But
well, Aaron, what I'll do is I'll just kind of hit on some of the people. I'm not aware of any liberals that have been banned. Not of
let's
any.
Not even call them
substance.
Liberals, because let's go back in,
Thank you,
history.
Leftists.
They've co-opted the word liberal.
We're liberals.
They're the opposite.
We're the class. We're a classical liberal, right? Thank
Exactly.
you, Aaron, for correcting my vernacular.
So that they have to come up with words like progressive and liberal, and they use those words up until they have too many negative connotations, and then they use another word.
And then they change. Then there's Newspeak. A new volume of Newspeak comes out, right? Mm-hmm. So essentially, we saw President Trump completely banned. Dr. Malone, the inventor or a inventor of mRNA technology. So now he was not one of the inventors or scientists that brought about some of the COVID vaccinations, but he was an inventor of the technology. So he knows this stuff really well. He's also a virologist who can cite all kinds of peer-reviewed studies about the efficacy or lack of efficacy, really to the point, lack of efficacy of these current vaccinations and their mismatch, and also the efficacy of therapeutics. Now, granted, thank God, I'm just going to mention this is great news. We are very close to pulling out of this pandemic, and I don't know everything that was said, but apparently Dr. Fauci is also starting to admit it. So I think we're getting close to this just being a cold and coming out of this. But again, he was banned. Charlie Kirk banned. I mean, it's amazing to me all the people that have been banned or completely censored, if not suspended, and they're all conservatives for the most part. Mm-hmm. And I mean that tells us something.
Or just simply people that put out information that is not approved by elites and government and the appointed experts that, again, they stop peer-reviewed studies from being reviewed on social media, et cetera, but they don't ever cite any peer-reviewed studies themselves. So, but Eric, if you don't mind, then I'm going to kind of go through this, and we don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but did you hear about former President Obama doing a speech last week at Stanford, him calling for, basically more censorship over social media?
I sure did, and I heard some of the comments.
Well, it's just funny. It's so I'm reading some excerpts from an article by Charlie Spearing, okay? And he's quoting Obama here and, kind of adding a few little words here and there, but I'm just going to go through a few highlights of this because I think Charlie Spearing did a really good job. So he starts out this speech, kind of gives all the platitudes, et cetera, as he opens up to speak to this college group of college students at Stanford. And then he gets into the crux of the matter and says, well, quote, I'm pretty close to a First Amendment absolutist. But the First Amendment is a check on the power of the state. It doesn't apply to private companies like Facebook and Twitter. And what's funny about that is, so what he's saying is, what it sounds like to me right there, he's saying the First Amendment is a check on the power of the state, but it doesn't protect speech on these private companies' platforms. Okay, so then how can you have, so you're not going to protect free speech on the most, the largest platform of speech the world has ever known?
Right. Which is really a public forum, which again,
yes.
That's the issue with this, and audience members, we don't claim to be constitutional lawyers. We're not saying that at all, but I think we're studied enough in the understanding of the original intent. These platforms have become public forums, and therefore it does kind of change the thought process that you still have to look at protecting free speech on these platforms, mainly because they're used for politics. Mm-hmm. And so when you start shutting down political discourse on the largest avenue, the largest forums for this discourse, then you are in fact restricting free speech, and it has to be checked if it's being censored.
Yeah, so he goes on to say, while content moderation can limit the distribution of clearly dangerous content, it doesn't go far enough. So what he's saying, and it goes on in this article, he's talking about regulation to make sure that social media stops speech that the government, and of course those in power, speech that they deem as, quote, clearly dangerous. Now, okay, so how is that? He's saying that the First Amendment is a check on the power of the state, but yet he's wanting to use the state to force social media platforms to censor speech. So, I mean, it's talking through both sides of his mouth, right? I mean, it
sounds like a typical despot. Yeah, definitely a paradox.
So he says here, over time, we lose our capacity to distinguish between fact, opinion, and wholesale fiction. Or maybe we just stop caring. Our brains aren't accustomed to taking in this much information this fast. And a lot of us are experiencing overload. So he's saying that, in essence, right, Eric, that free speech and information is at such a scale, and it's so powerful and too fast that the First Amendment needs to be, reined in. So again, it's just hilarious how, and I even read through the entire transcript of this speech, and he gives all kinds of cute little nods to rights and the Bill of Rights and stuff, and then of course that's just to placate people that would critique what he's saying, right? So, and here's one last thing, a couple of things here, and then I'll kind of go back, let you comment on it, Eric. But he says, basically referring back to earlier, especially when he talked about being able to use social media to get elected. So he's talking about these things.
Aaron, I'll stop you there. He was the first master of that. I'll give him that. He he mastered the use of social media to help himself get elected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what we're going to say, right, is those in power, which often are leftist, they're going to decide what is misinformation, right? That's the new word they're saying. Excuse me, disinformation. Even worse, disinformation, right? But what he said, referring back to earlier times, is what does still nag at me was my failure to fully appreciate at the time just how susceptible we had become to lies and conspiracy theories. So, dude, the hubris of that, he's saying on the part of people that, we are now so susceptible to lies and conspiracy theories. You're not smart enough, so someone in power needs to set you straight and make sure that you only get the speech that they deem correct or that they want you to hear. But
which is really what this all boils down to, is that they only want you to hear the speech that they deem correct information, and disinformation, as we've seen time and time again in the last 2 years, because that's where this all really came about. Well, and also before the election, but mainly the last couple of years, is that they've decided what is disinformation, and it's always going against their narrative. And let's just face it, we can prove time and time again through factual data that they're just covering that up. They're covering up that it's an argument of truth against their narrative. We can belabor this on and on, but the bottom line is that, just like you said, Aaron, they have decided that the population is too stupid or dumbed down, which is they're trying to produce that dumbed down society to make decisions for themselves, and they're going to make sure that through social media that they're going to continue to control that narrative. And now this acquisition of Twitter by Elon Musk is threatening that, and they know that it could be a huge hit to their power, which is ultimately what it is. And I'll just say this, which I didn't hit on earlier: Twitter, and through this, well, actually, I don't think it was Leslie Berland. I could be wrong on this, but I think it was their chief lawyer is directly who censored the New York Post story about Hunter Biden's laptop that they said was Russian disinformation. Well, now the New York Times is admitting that is substantiated information. And man, $30 or $40 million have passed to the Biden family through those deals.
And Eric, we know full well that could have helped him win the election.
Well, Aaron, you beat me to it. That's exactly what I was going to close with in this, is that had the American population had that information, I surmise that he would not have been elected.
Yeah.
So
that's a whole other.
Yeah,
that's a whole other debate.
And Aaron, let me really close this out with this important statement. How does this? We're a Second Amendment self-defense show. How does this affect the Second Amendment? Well, free speech and the ability to formulate arguments for the Second Amendment and self-defense and liberty based around the Second Amendment is completely throttled by these social media platforms. Mm-hmm. And it's very important that our audience members, I hope that they haven't checked out. Sometimes we try not to get too political, but I think it's important sometimes. What this really boils down to is our audience members that that may be on the fence about this, the ability to have our arguments heard is what's going to keep the Second Amendment alive. Mm-hmm. So this type of news, hopefully, Aaron, like you said, I'm reticent to be excited and think, oh, this is great. It's gonna change everything. It may not, but we hope so. Because
I just want to stress how dangerous this is, and that they're doing it right in front of everybody. That's just a scary thing. We've gone through some really interesting, just constantly moving threats against freedom and over this last couple of years. And this is just another battle. And Eric, as I was thinking, we often apologize for getting political. Man, I kind of want to stop apologizing, because you know what? We have our opinions, and we have our worldview, and we have our view that leans, of course, towards not leans, but favors liberty and libertarianism and conservatism and constitutionalism. And our show covers so many freedoms that we want to hold on to. So, man, I don't want to apologize. I want to try not to apologize anymore for, quote, getting political, because this is very important to our ability to protect ourselves, to carry guns in public, for instance, right?
And to continue living in prosperity, and more importantly, Aaron, the prosperity of our children. And I'm a grandfather, my grandson, and your grandchildren. So, yeah, Aaron, that's a good point. And we should remind ourselves, and this is something, and we can segue into our next segment, is politics, and we talked about this. I'm just kind of preaching to the choir. It revolves around the root word of polis. So a city-state, everything around the polis, the city-state, the politics, police, and see that people don't even realize that police is birthed in the polis. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, everything, when we get political, and I think we're taught to be concerned about being political, but man, it's what human engagement revolves around when it comes down to it.
Well, and I'll just touch on this. Speaking of this information, this information that we're talking about, and our liberties, including the First Amendment, and then, of course, the Second Amendment, which we, of course, revolve around on this show. Pretty soon, apparently, the Supreme Court is going to issue their ruling on, forgive me, it's the New York Rifle Association, I believe, versus the state of New York, I think. Forgive me, I don't have the case exactly right, but it's essentially a case against the statute in the state of New York that the shall issue of concealed weapons permits, the fact that you have to have a proper cause to have a concealed weapons permit to, quote, bear arms. So that's just another important issue coming up, Eric. I just wanted to touch on that. We should be looking for that. And the betting world in the world of the Second Amendment and who follow these cases, they're probably going to come down on the side of the Second Amendment in this, and it's going to be a big issue. And I was reading through some articles today, and man, anti-gunners and people scared of citizens being able to arm themselves. They're flipping out about this. So,
well, and Aaron, one point to add to that, I'm also hearing that it's down to the possibility of two justices, and that's Amy Barrett and Justice Clarence Thomas. It's a high probability that Clarence Thomas will get this case
to write the
Yes.
forgive me, the affirmative opinion, not the dissenting opinion. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if he writes it, man, it's going to be way clearer than Heller. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we can only pray that Clarence Thomas gets the case.
Bro, I've heard this. I've heard the same thing, that he is in line to do the next major opinion.
Yeah.
So that will be great. What a wonderful judge and a brilliant guy, and brilliant gentleman. Now, Eric, speaking of, who was it that wrote the majority opinion in Heller?
Aaron, I'll be honest with you, I don't recall. Was it? Boy, let's look it up right now. Let's talk about our sponsor, Keepers Concealment, the original authority on appendix holsters and appendix carry, offering high-performance handgun training, specializing in concealed carry performance. Check out their flagship holster, the Keeper. This holster set the standard for quality, comfort, concealability, and retention. Keepers Concealment is also a proud affiliate of CCW Safe, the truly proven legal service membership company offering dedicated legal defense. Heaven forbid you're forced to use lethal force. Use code KC10OFF and check them out at ccwsafe.com/keepers. To buy a holster, sign up for a class, inquire about hosting a course, or join CCW Safe, find it all at keepersconcealment.com and use Evo Twins at checkout for 10% off. Now back to the interview.
Well, as you're looking at that, let me make sure I'm covering all the points I was wanting to make. But, bro, I'm just giving a shout out to our buddy John Murphy, who kept drinking Maker's Mark on our show.
Ooh, that's good. As our coach and buddy Cliff Byerly, that brown water.
Bro, he was on. Speaking of Cliff, what a cool dude. But he was. I saw something on his social media. He was talking about a big class that he just finished, and he was going to hydrate with some brown water.
Yeah,
dude, Cliff, how does whiskey hydrate you? That's stupid.
Well, he knows better. He knows what he's doing, though.
I know, bro. I'm just giving him a hard time. Having fun.
Me too, man. Cliff's a great guy.
I'm hydrating right now.
What an awesome supporter of the show. We don't want to take too much time gushing about our mentors and supporters, but what a good dude.
Well, bro, I think we're going to try and get another class going with him pretty soon. That's in the works.
Well, Aaron, I just didn't want to say immediately. I was thinking.
Let me guess. Was it Scalia?
Yes. Yeah, it was Scalia. So, Aaron, I'm not drinking bourbon, but I am drinking some red wine. I've been really abstaining again. But I figured tonight we're going to hang out, so I'm having a little bit of red wine, I should say.
We got all kinds of stuff to talk about here. So we cover the Supreme Court issue, and we're kind of rambling here, but you know what? It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's always fun. Well, Aaron, I think this might be a kind of a good subject to talk about, and that is home maintenance of your pistols.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to say right out front is I am not a certified
armorer.
Thank you, goodness. I'm not a certified armorer for Glock or any other company. But we're going to use Glock as an example because they are very, very easy to maintain with just a little bit of knowledge. and the parts are actually very inexpensive. So I'm not going to give out any very, very specific data or timelines. I'm just going to give some general guidance and just to let folks know that this is something that you should be researching on your own and stocking parts up, because I mean you can do this yourself. And I will say, for credit, because we need to give credit where credit is due. The first time I heard about like the primary parts that fail is James Yeager and of Tactical Response, and so I want to make sure that I gave a shout out to him, and I hope he's doing well in his health. By the way,
that's right. That's right.
Been praying for him. Incidentally, in my research in this to make sure I was straight on some of this, I had recalled not too long ago our buddy in the virtual world, Greg Ellifritz, had wrote a really good blog post on this. So I'm going to have a lot of this in the show notes like I try to do. And I sure hope that people appreciate the show notes, because not just
you put a lot of time into them.
I do put a little bit of time into it, but more importantly is that it's just a very easy source. All you have to do is swipe up on whatever podcast platform, and the links are right there for you to click on. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to have some of this information in the show notes. But Aaron, I think you'll attest, you've probably broken Glock parts before, right?
I have. Let me think here. The one that finally surprised me was the locking block itself. Isn't that what it's called? Forgive me, guys.
Yep.
I'm not an armorer either, but yeah, I finally broke a part that, sometimes you feel shouldn't break.
Aaron, was it the locking block itself, or was it the locking block pin?
No, it was a locking block. It was in my Gen 3 17, which I don't know the round count on that, but I guarantee it's in the 30 to 40,000 round range.
Well, Aaron, I would ask the first question then, because that brings up the first on the list. Do you recall if you had ever changed the guide rod spring?
Oh, I changed guide rod springs quite a bit, actually.
And Aaron, I didn't mean that as an insult at all. I was just curious from that breakage if you had.
Yeah, there's I probably am not as good about maintenance as I should be, but I'm okay.
Oh, neither am I.
Yeah. So let's dig into this and we can talk about it.
Yeah, so for our audience members, I'm just going to lay it out. What are the most important parts that you should have on hand? And it's just a handful of parts. And number one is the guide rod spring assembly, right? Now, that doesn't fail that often at all, but what it does do is it causes other parts to fail. As it weakens, of course, the spring's supposed to buffer the inertia of the slide reciprocating. And so if it starts to weaken, then it's going to cause possible damage or weakening of other parts. So that's what you got to consider. So you should replace those. They're cheap as heck. I mean, I'm not going to quote prices. They're somewhere around $10, $15. They may be upwards of $20
and you're talking Gen 3s or
but now this certainly should account for in Gen 5s. You may not have to replace him as often in Gen 5s.
Yeah, we can talk about that, but so now I'm thinking in terms of my Gen 3s and my Gen 5.
Yeah, and there's still not a lot of real good data out there on the longevity of the parts for the Gen 5 because they're so new. And any audience members out there that are experts at this, please contact us at crew@evosec.org if you got any better data. And I think, Aaron, this is a good time to say, hey, yeah, as we start as we start going further into this company and teaching a lot more classes, we probably should become certified armorers for Glock
Buddy,
and maybe Smith & Wesson too.
I was holding off on that I was about to say at the end of this, hey, we need to become certified armorers, but, start out with Glock, but, it'd be nice to hit some of the other main pistol platforms too.
Smith & Wesson M&P, 1911s.
Yep. Maybe Berettas.
Yep. Oh yeah, Beretta for sure.
I wonder if Ernest Langdon could teach us on that.
Oh, I bet he could. So again, back to the main list, the guide rod spring and assembly needs to be replaced every 3,000 to 5,000 rounds is a good average number. You might be able to stretch it a little bit. I'm not going to split hairs on that, but that's just the general recommendation from all the sources that I have. Second, not necessarily in this order, but the trigger spring does fail fairly often. So you need to have those on hand. And man, they're like a $3 or $4 part. Locking block pin. And so I'll mention this. The locking block pin fails because of a weakened, or most of the time, by a weakened guide rod spring.
Interesting.
And so, that's the big cause of that failure. Now, the slide stop lever would be on top of the list. This is fourth in the list. And fifth would be the slide lock spring, which Greg Ellifritz in his examples, and I've heard about this too, but brings up the example, that's a catastrophic failure. Can you imagine in a gunfight, Aaron, your slide just flying off your pistol in the middle of a gunfight?
Oh man!
But Aaron, I'll stop there to mention this, and this is a shout out to Tom Gibbons. What folks really should do, and I'm not one of those yet. I'm still developing my actual all of the arms that I have. I still use on a regular basis. Now, granted, my carry pistol doesn't see as many rounds as my other pistols. But I love what Tom recommends. He's got a carry pistol, and he has an identical training pistol, and he does not combine the two.
Yeah.
So his carry pistol, I know that he shoots a few rounds, not a few. He's probably shot quite a bit of rounds through it, but well on the low end because he just wants it ready to go. But my guess is that he probably does periodic maintenance on those as well. Knowing Tom. But again, if you do not have that luxury, you should stock the parts that we just mentioned. So I'll name them again. Guide rod spring, the trigger spring, the locking block pin, slide stop lever, the slide lock spring, and I'll back up. For 4, the slide stop lever in the Gen 5 is a slide stop spring that actually forces, the way that one's designed, forces the slide stop up. Mm-hmm. So, see, I'll just put that out there. So if you just get those parts alone, you're going to have a good start. Now, some very important other parts to have certainly will be a striker spring, safety plunger spring, extractor, depressor, plunger spring, and an extractor. Those are just a few of the parts that you should also likely have on stock. Now, what I would say, Aaron, is that several manufacturers or several venues like Brownells or Glock parts have kind of survival kits. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes they go in and out of stock because, full disclosure, right now at this recording, some of the stock parts are hard to get right now.
Hey, that's what I was about to say. Several months ago, I was trying to buy a little stock of pins and a few springs and stuff. Yeah, I couldn't get a hold of them. Also, yesterday, as we were talking about maybe covering this on the show, I had already started making a shopping cart at one of the good online stores. And so I was waiting for you to bring this up so I could finish my order.
Good deal. Well, the reality is that the parts are so cheap, and I really commend our audience members to go ahead and save a page from Brownells or Glock parts or whomever you choose. I'm not advocating for any particular company. I do really recommend that you stick with OEM parts or manufacturer parts.
Yeah.
It's not that other manufacturers don't have great parts, but I just can't recommend that you use anything but OEM parts. Now let me correct myself. Overwatch triggers are just fine.
Yeah.
So Overwatch uses factory parts, and their trigger shoes, man, they're bomb proof. So just wanted to lay that out. But yeah, it's very important for us to have parts. And I'll say this again: I'm gonna get on the political stint. If folks like Joe Biden and his minions and all the leftists that are against the Second Amendment, they want to outlaw the purchase of any gun parts. And so I think
let's fine tune that statement though. At least their first idea is to ban the sale of gun parts online.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Very good point, Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. But the main thing is, if they do that, these parts are going to get harder to get, right? Because these companies have economies of scale. You're going to have to, if you can't get them online without doing, say, 4473, isn't that the form? Don't quote me on that. Forgive me, guys.
Green form.
Yeah, to get parts for your gun, I mean, it's just going to be harder to get a hold of. So I kind of encourage people to at least get a handful of these, at least a stock of, let's just say 2 or 3 boxes full of it, right? To make sure you've got some on hand just in case some of this crap comes down, because we already have some things coming down on us. For instance, the quote ghost gun ruling that's coming out here pretty soon.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say a Smith & Wesson M&P, their parts aren't going to be that much more expensive if the same price. So for $150, you could buy the parts that could maintain your pistols for perpetuity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and because let's face it, not everybody shoots as much as maybe we do, or especially competitive shooters.
Yeah.
But just having those parts on hand, you can maintain your own pistols for longevity. So
yeah, I wonder how we need to get Mike Seaclander on the phone and ask him how often he has to do maintenance on his pistols.
We should actually.
Does he just send his off to Wilson Combat or something? You listening there, Mike?
I bet you Mike comes back and said, man, I maintain my own pistols.
Man, let's give a shout out to that guy. He is a super cool guy. And tell you what, bro, I'll even say it on the air. I'm going to try and get some private lessons from him.
I'm
he
jealous,
he lives just about 20 miles from me.
I'm jealous. I might have to get on a plane if you get that arranged.
Hey, let's do it.
Well, Aaron, I'm gonna say for the audience what might come in a survival kit. So you might find a firing pin safety plunger, a firing pin safety plunger spring, recoil spring, firing pin spring, firing pin spacer sleeves, firing pin channel liner, spring cups, magazine release, locking block pin, trigger housing pin, trigger spring, Glock disassembly tool, and a zipper bag. That was on the list. Zipper bag. Anyway, I just want to say those are some of the parts that, and I think this kit, when I checked it, it was somewhere around $60.
Well,
so,
hey, as you were laying that out, I was seeing that firing pin channel liner. Mm-hmm. Eric, I don't know if you remember it was 5 or 6 years ago. We were shooting at that range you went to. It was kind of a public range in Washington, and I kept having what looked like soft primer strikes, or excuse me, hard primer strikes. What that ended up being is that I painted my slide with a coating that I fired in my oven, and it messed up my firing pin channel liner. I had no idea that part was in there, and it messed up my pistol and made it to where it was not reliable. So yeah, that's a good thing to have.
Oh, I definitely remember that. I remember you going through troubleshooting that, and I was glad you found that out, man. Well, man, I think we've covered maintenance of pistols. I'll just say this one more time. Folks, go out there and research. I'll have some links in the show notes. But it's deeply important that in this day and age, with the inexpensive manufacturing of high failure parts, is just go ahead and stock them at your house. Just, go out there and spend $150. You don't even have to spend that much, but if you spend $100 or $150, you're likely going to be good, at least
if
for
you
a
can
duration.
stock ammo, you can stock parts for your guns.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Aaron, I think, man, it's time to do some accountability. We haven't done this in months.
Yeah, I guess that's a good time to comment on that. As we've grown this show, we've tried to put out more content, and, it is actually difficult to make sure we have the time to do the accountability portion of the show, et cetera. So we've kind of changed our format. So I think we're going to try and do these host only and, Gear and MInset shows, and make sure we do hit our accountability in these shows. So just want to comment on that real quick, Eric.
Yeah, good comment, man. And I know we get interaction from audience members that enjoy our accountability. And so we'll just make these accountability sections just a little more broad about the 2 weeks or month or so since the last time we covered it, because we know it's important that we maintain our accountability with our audience members, and that the folks that enjoy that content, that we put it out there for them. So, Aaron, on that note, I'm going to give it to you.
Man, you're putting me on the spot. Well, so, Eric, you'll appreciate this. I have been ramping up my jits the last...
Oh, yeah.
Because I was really working on my pistol shooting, and then I realized that, man, I played around getting through to my combatives test for the Gracie system, and then, all I need to do is double down on my work and finish up getting that blue belt. So I'm working on that. So I'm making sure I'm hitting about 3 classes a week these days. But you know what? Okay, so I'm going to digress a little bit, Eric. Bro, why is it that... I mean, this is an age-old question. Mm-hmm. Why is it that you have people, even at your same rank, that feel like they have to use all their strength at all costs? They have to win against you.
I don't get it, honestly, man.
Well, so last night I partnered up with a guy that's my same rank and good friend of mine, but I hadn't rolled with him in a while. And holy crap, man, he used 100% of his ability and effort. And we're rolling. It's like, why don't people, I don't want to be mean here, but why don't people get that you can train at a pace that you do well, your partner does well, and you both learn? Dude, I finally just ended up, okay, dude, if this is the game you want to play, I'm not going to let you do a dadgum thing. I held everything that he tried, and it was just amazing. Spastic, moving fast, and bro, it's just an irritant to me. And I came home kind of ticked off and about that. And when I rolled with my wife afterwards and another good friend, I was like, man, it's good to roll with someone that understands training.
Well, Aaron, can I stop you for a second?
Yeah.
I think that unfortunately it's a human nature thing that will never get past in our gyms. Mm-hmm. In certain settings, I understand it, but what I will say is that and I've experienced that recently myself, and what the bottom line is when you're training in class, unless you're getting ready for a competition, it's all about both of you learning. And I've told partners this before, and sometimes I was like, hey, listen, I don't mind giving up something, here and there through the round. Just relax. And some people, there's probably some younger people out there and some more hardcore folks out there that'll say, oh, no, hey, that's just the way jiu-jitsu or wrestling or what have you is. Well, I disagree. The reason I disagree is that it's when you're rolling with your training partners in a regular class setting, you're trying to learn. But when you're getting ready for competition, you should roll hard and you should risk a little bit when you're getting ready for competition. But man, when you're just in a normal class setting, I like what Cliff says. It should be around 20 to 30, 40% max in that kind of setting. And so, see,
and this isn't a point of, I'm not being braggadocious, but it may be my years of training in lots of other disciplines, but I've gotten compliments from rolling with higher ranks that, your pace is really good, Aaron, for especially someone that I've never rolled with. And it's because, man, you just don't. Going 100% doesn't do any good for anybody. Am I wrong in that, Eric? It's like you said, in a class setting. I didn't mean to go off on this major tangent.
No, I think it's important. No, there's a time and a place for it. There's no question that people getting ready for competition should be going hard as hell. Yeah. But in a normal learning environment, I think that's what the difference is. In a learning environment, you're there with friends. You're not competing against each other. Mm-hmm. That's where the ego from both male and female comes out. And let's face it, it does not come out in women that often. Mm-mm. God bless women. They just don't have the same ego bullshit that men have. And I think that's what it boils down to. When I roll with certain buddies of mine that, they're good friends and I like them just fine, but I'm not trying to break their limbs. I'm not trying to choke them out, but I am trying to work new techniques that I'm trying to figure out. And man, I guarantee you this. Yeah, I'm getting a little older, but I'm still okay strong. If I don't want somebody to get something on me, I can T-Rex up and nobody's getting anything on me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not trying to sound braggadocious. It's like I can T-Rex up and I can lock up, and I know people can agree with that. If you do that, yeah, there's going to be somebody way better than me, you know, somebody that has a lot higher technicality than me. Yeah, even if I T-Rex up, they're probably going to still get me. I'm going to clarify that. My point is that all of us can T-Rex up and not gain anything out of that round. You're going to end up exhausted, and you're not going to learn anything, and neither is your partner. So chill out, you know?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I didn't want to go off on that tangent, but it was really on my mind last night for sure. So I wrote a note about it. But so, you know, Eric, we've been rolling out classes, EvoSec classes, you know, kind of under the radar, but we've been doing this for a while. And so that was one thing I did last weekend. I taught a defensive pistol foundation class to some really cool students and had a great time. Man, I love to teach. I love, man, just helping people climb that learning curve faster than you did. Man, that's what it's all about. But, you know, got some great feedback from the students. And
it's that filtered information, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
You know, it is awesome to help people bypass let's just be frank, the decades that a lot of us have spent getting to where we are, right? So, and the multiple mistakes and, you know, wrong gear, et cetera, and wrong techniques, et cetera. But yeah, it was fun. But so, Eric, I was going to bring up, do you realize we've got that Range Master Advanced Instructor certification course coming up in like a month?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Man, so, I'm looking forward to it.
So, do two major things. I'm going to have to start shooting a little bit more, get prepared for that. You know, I want to do my best in the class, but I was thinking about this a while ago. How long has it been since you and I have shot together? I think it's the last ECQC, and to be frank, you can't really say that shooting together because you're working on some pretty different advanced techniques in that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we haven't.
Like just shooting, we haven't done that in years. So, man, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too, bro. As always.
And you know, I guess, you know, that besides, you know, my jits and working on, you know, doing that class and doing a bit of practice and shooting, one other thing, Eric, we are going to TACCon 2023, are we not?
Rock and roll, man. I forgot about that. We jumped on those tickets, didn't we?
And you know what? I saw Tiffany Johnson, who heads up TACCon, by the way. What a great gal, by the way.
Can't wait to meet her.
Yeah, she's great. Amazing role player. She played my girlfriend in one of the what was it called? Shoot, the Establishing Dominance Paradigm class.
Hey.
She's awesome, man. Great gal. But so that sold out, I believe, Eric, in 3 days.
Cool.
So me trying to, you know, remember that night, Eric, I was like, hey, dude, did you get your freaking tickets? Mm-hmm. And you hadn't called me in like a few hours. And normally you would tell me that you got the tickets when I said, hey, dude, get your freaking tickets. But you didn't. It made me nervous. I thought, man, I'm going to have to represent EvoSec on my own. And man, wouldn't that be freaking embarrassing?
I let you stew on it. I said, I'm going to let Aaron cook on this a little bit. Hey, Aaron, I sit there and say it. I'm just joking. Bro, that was a crazy day at work. What's funny is after we talked about it, I went right on and bought the tickets. And
Dude,
and
I'm pissed you didn't say anything. I was literally sitting there wondering through the day. Left me hanging, you jerk.
Yeah, bro. I guarantee you what happened, and I think I remember what happened, is I got pulled into some work emergency. And
You were probably having to write the trajectory of satellites or something stupid like that.
I'm not that smart. So,
Well,
yeah.
I just wanted to say, mention that we nailed that down for TACCon, and man, there's going to be the smartest freaking, the best, experts in the industry at that place, and it's just going to be nerd fest. Am I right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's taken us this long to get to TACCon. We've known about TACCon for so many years, and unfortunately, life gets in the way of focusing on those things. But now that we're in this venture, it's like, why haven't we been there? Number one, and number two, you just make it happen. So I'm super excited.
Well, in our industry, honestly, I'm ashamed we haven't gone yet. So,
yeah, Aaron, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm ashamed we hadn't been. Yep. Well, it changes next year.
Yep. Well,
what
it's
else
your turn,
you got,
bro.
buddy? Okay, it's my turn. So I'm not going to hit too hard on the old trite accountability, and that was disrespectful to accountability.
Yeah, look out, bro. Look out, bro.
So one of the interesting things about my life in the last 6 months is that I'm just gonna come out front with this. Big accountability. I have not until recently fired a live round in close to 5 months.
Super boo.
I was gonna say I was expecting to hear a boo.
Boo, super boo.
Part of that was by choice. Part of it was also, next thing you know, that's what happened. I've been waiting on a range home after moving here, and I also said I'm focusing on jiu-jitsu, and I'll keep dry firing. So the last couple of weeks, I've been to the range twice. I'm back to shooting once a week. Now, I may not hit every single week right now, but that is the plan. I've got my range bag packed and ready to go Friday. And this is the cool part, Aaron. So there's a range, I'll just say it this way, close to where I work, very close to where I work, that is badass.
Cool.
And it's on post. And as long as you register your firearm and whatnot, you're good to go. And it's inexpensive. And most ranges on post, they're real restrictive. But this place, man, they don't care if you draw from the holster. They don't care how fast you shoot as long as you're safe. And so I'm like, man, it's just minutes from where I work. So that's going to be my new weekly range trip.
That's kick ass.
Yeah, it's awesome, Aaron. And I met some cool people there. One guy that I think we're going to likely have on the show, former SF guy. I tend to meet a lot of SF dudes these days because of where I'm at.
Imagine that.
Yeah, a really cool dude.
Fort Bragg.
Yeah, but anyway, he and I have hit it off real big, and yeah, I'm real pumped about that factor in my shooting because that was one of the issues with. I'm like, man, I just don't crappy ranges around me. I can't get a membership. was waiting on a list, and man, this place is kind of a godsend, and it's on post, so kind of cool. So as far as my shooting abilities right now, they're lacking compared to what they were. They're coming back real quick just because, we dry fire, we maintain. And so I'm going to tell this story. It's kind of cool. Myself and a colleague of mine, I'm going to say his first name, Ken, we set up a range day. And, man, my son, Nick, comes out and for the weekend. So he, myself, and some colleagues go out and shoot. And I'm like, you know what? If I'm going out shooting a cold drill. So I'm like, hey, let's shoot. Everybody can shoot the FBI qual. And man, my first time of shooting my dot dynamically, and I barely shot a 94. And what's interesting is that I say always maintain a 90, but you know what, man? I'm thinking for what we do, a 95 or above is a must on that one. Yeah. So I didn't meet my standards on that. But what I will tell you is that the only misses I had, interestingly enough, were closer, like the 3 and the 7-yard stuff. I was trying to shoot as fast as I shot with irons without having the stability in the red dot that I will develop over time. So, so my only misses were close, which was bizarre. And I'm going to say right now, shout out to my son Nick. He outshot me on it.
That's one of those things. It's like, that's freaking cool.
Yeah. It's like, I raised Nick shooting, and I'm not his only instructor, but I'm his primary instructor. So that made me proud.
Awesome.
And he's a Marine Corps firearms instructor at that. So, so he shot the best of the day out of all of us. And shout out to my buddy Ken. He shot over, I think. I shot a 94. I think he shot a 92 maybe. And that's the first time he shot it. So I was real proud of him.
Cool.
So I'm just going to end it with jiu-jitsu. Man, I have, over the last handful of months, I've had the most opportunities to train jiu-jitsu, mainly because shout out to Daybreakers, because having the morning opportunity is huge for me. I prefer to work out in the morning, as audience members have heard me talk about.
You're dumb. Sorry.
If you ever started,
I'm kidding, bro.
I know you are. If you ever try it out, man, you'll be like, yep, that's where it's at. But yeah, having the Daybreakers, shout out to Adam, our coach in the morning. It's gives me the opportunity to have either morning or evening, and man, I'm consistently hitting 3 to 5 times a week, and it's really plussed up my jiu-jitsu. And when I say 5 times a week, it might be open mat. I'm also, I'll just say it on the air too. I'm working on my purple belt test material. My gym has test material. And so I've arranged 2 hours a week with Chris Curry. Shout out to him. I'm going to say his last name. Him helping us, and another hour of the week working the other portion of the test material. And so just working hard on that. So when I'm blessed to be promoted, I'm cool with that. I'm not in any hurry, but that is my main goal right now, and that's been my hardest effort. Still hitting up the lifting in the home gym. I will tell you, it's funny. I told my son the other night, because he was sending me text about his workout, and I'm like, son, you just missed my workout. I'm working on beach muscles. Because normally I'm lifting heavy back in the day and doing a lot of functional stuff. But as hard as I'm working out in jiu-jitsu, I'm kind of working more kind of bodybuilding movements right now to keep myself from overtraining, at least for what I'm doing. So I'm still hitting that up too. But
so as you're talking about jiu-jitsu there, I'm noticing your right hand is all taped up. Is that from jits right there?
What's funny, this is kind of funny. So, this is from jiu-jitsu this morning at Daybreakers, and I've yet to cut it all off. This is even after my morning shower. So, what's funny, man,
what's that monkey tape? I think that
yeah, it's monkey tape.
I've got some of that. It's good stuff.
It is really good.
It hurts taking it off.
And shout out to Cliff. I still have a sprain in my index finger and in my pinky finger. My pinky's seeming to heal, but man, my index finger still, because Cliff had us get after it, so I'm still dealing with that. So normally when I'm training jiu-jitsu, I've got this all taped up, and these two fingers are kind of supported, and I've got my hand taped up, and it's kind of funny.
Bro, I need to learn that from you, because lately I always run with wrist guards, and I tape those up. And because, of course, for my music, man, it'd really suck if I had an injury, the week before a gig.
Well, Aaron, you're in a very interesting conundrum. And I always empathize with you, because when we're taking classes, the complete combatant class, Cliff's class, I felt for you, because there were times where you had to put your wrist guards on, and man, I understand. And then, but what's funny is that my drum kit behind me here, as I've been dealing with this healing, man, it affected my drumming.
Yeah.
So, but for the first time today, in the last couple of days, it seems to be settling.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's because of, man, I tape my hand like crazy. And
I'm saying all that, I bring up the wrist guards to say I need to maybe get some tips from you about what fingers I need to tape up. I haven't had many issues, but last night I was using a lot of strength, and I think my fingers were a little bit worn out from the grips.
Yeah, and the way that my hands are taped now, this is like some of the base tape. So, yeah, I could certainly show you how I tape, kind of supporting X taping and all that stuff.
Do you tape that before you get to the gym or when you get there?
So this is a good time to talk about this. I only tape the portion that doesn't keep me from drawing a pistol and shooting. So if I tape my hands up the way I train in class, I won't be able to fight with a pistol. So you have to be real cognizant of that. Yeah.
So, okay. So you're talking real life. When you leave, you might need to fight with your pistol. Is that what you're saying?
So I live in a real nice area. I'm just saying that I'm not going to be in that predicament, right? So I just don't want to be in a predicament where I can't use my pistol. So I have like a stage where I'm waking up and I'm usually watching some kind of jiu-jitsu video and preparing notes or looking over notes, and I'll tape what portion of my hand that I can. But on the road, if I wait until I get to the gym to tape the rest. Yep.
I see. Well,
yeah, maybe that's a subject we can cover on the air sometime.
Yeah. Well, Eric, as I was thinking about our upcoming class, are you going to plan on using your 19 with your dot, or are you going to run irons? Have you thought about that?
Man. I'm absolutely going to run my my 19.
Cool.
With the dot. Yeah, I gotta get used to that under pressure. So yeah, I'm gonna run.
Bro, I remember actually leading up to my range master course. I really had some issues shooting up close single handedly.
Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yep, that's what I
were having.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's weird to try and get that lens up to your eye line when you're used to shooting with irons single-handedly. So you got to train yourself to put that lens up to your eye line when you're working on those.
Yeah, and what's interesting is that's precisely what I was doing in dry fire for every session beforehand. But man, when you have thousands of repetitions with iron sights, man, your index is based on that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, man, that's I just got to have time behind it. That's all.
Yeah, cool. Well, but we can talk about this in another show, but you're pretty stoked about that dot after not having shot a while and then going ahead and getting to shoot that. You're pretty stoked about it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm pumped about it. With our vision and getting a little bit older, it's going to make a big difference. Now, I will tell you this. I'll probably be one of those people that goes back and forth. Mm-hmm. It's just part of me, and I want to make sure that I maintain my use of irons. And my vision isn't that bad to where, man, it's affected at 25 more than anything else. You get closer, my irons, I'll just put it out there. Obviously, I'm still better with irons at closer distances. I mean, there's no question. Mm-hmm. But I do know that over time, I put in the time on the dot, I'm going to be better with the dot.
Yeah.
So, well, man, this has been fun, Aaron. Like I felt bad. I texted you. You were texting me about some of our content we were talking about, and I was busy at the time, and I realized sometimes I'll go back and see if I said something that I had a thought on. I was like, man, I look like I was being short and an asshole.
Nah.
And I was like, man, I'm gonna make sure Aaron knows I'm excited about recording tonight and having a good time. So, well, listen, man, this has been fun.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be great seeing you in a month and a half. And
hell yeah, bro. Yeah, dude. I was thinking about it today. I can't wait, man.
So you got the hotel, and you're picking me up, right?
We'll talk about that.
Messing with you, man. We picking.
Need to. I can certainly pick you up, man. We need to work on those arrangements, though. We're getting close.
All right, bro. All right, man. We'll talk to you later, man.
All right, bro. Take it easy.
Bye.